Hello everybody, my name is Dakoba and welcome back to Satisfactory. We are going to get started off with today's episode by constructing a steel foundry where we'll be producing our basic steel beams and steel pipes, and then we'll dive in the second half of the episode into seeking out and building some basic quartz production so we can start taking a look at some of the cool new buildables made available in Update 5. Let's get to it. We're going to get started today by taking a look at how to build a steel foundry. Now, the design we're going to be using today is going to make use of a alternate recipe that I managed to get between episodes called solid steel ingots. So let's go ahead and drop down a foundry so we can take a look at that. Now you can see I've got both the regular recipe and the solid steel ingot recipe right here, and I want to do a quick analysis of these. Steel ingots are pretty straightforward. They take 45 iron ore and 45 coal per minute, and they produce 45 steel per minute. This is a pretty easy to understand recipe. The foundry building itself isn't particularly complicated. It does have two inputs, so it's a little more interesting than a smelter, but we've been working with assemblers since day one, so this is nothing too challenging for us. But if we take a look at the solid steel ingot recipe, you can see that there's something different. This takes 40 iron ingots per minute, as well as 40 coal, and produces 60 steel ingots per minute. So what this means essentially is that for the same ratio of inputs, we can gain a 50% increase in output. Instead of 45, 45, and 45, we get 40 and 40. And remember, 40 iron ingots is just 40 iron. So it's the same amount of iron sort of in ratio with the coal, but we get a 50% increase in output. Now, the cost of this is that we have to build a smelter in advance of this in order to support it. So that's what we're going to be working on today. It is a design for that. Now I've chosen this location near our coal factory, and this may end up being a temporary factory because I have other ideas for what I want to do with this coal, but I haven't found any sort of other good coal veins. There's one just across the way over there, but there's no real iron nearby. There's some iron up in the hills that we could sort of truck in, but I don't want to get too far into logistics before we get steel going. So I think we're going to build a small factory over here that may end up being temporary, or we may end up keeping. I'm not really sure, but then we're going to get started with that. So I've gone ahead and laid out a basic 6x6 foundation here, which will be a great size for our foundries and our constructors, which are sort of the essential buildings of a steel production plant. So this will give us steel beams, which will then steel ingots, which will then turn into steel beams as well as steel pipes. Now, in order to make use of the alternate solid steel recipe, which is worth so much, I'm going to go ahead and add a secondary structure. And I've been thinking about how to do this, and I think what I'm going to do is create a secondary structure on top of the first. So we're actually going to build sort of the lower layer that contains our foundries and constructors, and then maybe do a test run where we hook those up. You can see I've also placed the miners for our iron as well as our coal down there. So we'll go ahead and get those all set up and running. And while those are running, we'll set up some smelters and then sort of change the system over to make use of the solid steel ingots, which will also require us to do a little bit more fine tuning on our constructors at the end because we'll have more materials to work with. Now, looking at the foundry, we can see that depending on which recipe we're using, we're going to be taking 45 iron ore or coal per minute to make steel ingots, or if we're using solid steel, then we'll be taking 40 of each. Either way, if you look at our veins, we have two normal coal veins, and these are Mark 1 miners, so we're pulling 60 coal out of each of those, and a pure iron vein, so we're pulling 120 out of that. So that gives us a nice ratio of iron to coal, and we're producing 120 per minute, which means that regardless of which recipe we're using, we're going to need 3 foundries. And if we're using the steel ingots, we can underclock this a little bit to save a bit of power, so we'll definitely do that. And then that will give us 120 steel ingots per minute using the normal recipe, or 180 using solid steel. Now, if we look at what those steel ingots are used for, we have steel beams and steel pipes, and these are both made in a constructor. Very simple recipes. And these steel ingots will take 60 steel ingots per minute to produce 15 steel beams. Steel beams are important because they are the material for crafting the Mark III belts, so we're going to need quite a lot of these. And then steel pipes are very important as well because those are used in a number of constructions, and notably, those are sort of the optimal way to produce many of the next tier components for us, in particular motors and encased industrial beams, which we'll actually be making with ideally encased industrial pipes. I'm out of hard drives right now, so I'll have to go find some more. But we'll be using a ton of steel pipes as well. Now, if you look at the numbers on these, the steel beams take 60 steel ingots per minute to produce 15 steel beams, and the steel pipes take 30 steel ingots to produce 20 pipes. Now, these numbers work out well with our ratios. If we're starting with 120 ingots per minute, then we can go ahead and do one constructor of steel beams to take up half of that, and then two constructors rather of steel pipes in order to take up the other half, the other 60. That will give us 40 steel pipes per minute and 15 steel beams. When we transition over to the solid steel ingot recipe, we can then add another constructor for steel beams, which would then use that extra 60 and double our steel beam output. So we'd be getting 30 steel beams per minute and 40 steel pipes per minute. And this is great. I also want to make use of an awesome sink here, so that we're gonna fill some storage containers with these. And you can see that I have a couple of AI limiters so that we can set up smart splitters in order to pipe any sort of overflow into an awesome sink output. And that's something we'll be making use of in this factory as well. So the tentative plan here is for us to go ahead and take this foundation we've laid out, do a line of 3 smelters, and then a line of 4 constructors. Now, one of those constructors is going to be idle. It's going to be turned off at the moment. Or what I may do is play around with the ratios and see if, running 2 constructors at 50% saves power compared to just running 1 constructor. And that way it's sort of in place, and when we are ready to hook up the secondary when we're ready to increase our steel ingot production, we can just sort of ramp those back up to 100%. But I think we may go ahead and just sort of future-proof it and plan for that. And then once that's done, we'll go ahead and build a second story on this. And what we'll end up doing is taking the iron and piping that up into that second story and turning it into ingots and smelters, and then bringing those ingots downstairs to sort of change up the inputs on our foundries. And we are back here out at the site of our foundation with engineer 258. Give us a wave, 258. Hey, how you doing? 258 is going to help us with building this foundry in the form of a time lapse. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, and with that, our steel factory has come to life. Let's give a big thanks to Pioneer 258 for helping us out with our factory today. Now that our factory is all done and dusted, let's go ahead and go on a quick tour of it. You can see we have a Mark 1 miner on a pure vein bringing in 120 iron per minute, as well as 2 Mark 1 miners on normal veins bringing in 120 coal per minute. These are then sent into this underfed belt system here, where they are being piped up into our various foundries. We have a total of 3 foundries, each producing 45 steel ingots per minute. This is something we can actually optimize by reducing those to 88.88 repeating percent, which will give us 40 steel ingots per minute. So let's go ahead and make that change real quick. And then all of those steel ingots are being sent out along this belt, which in theory should pretty well fill up once we get our manifolds sort of all sorted and backlogged. This should be a full belt coming out of there, and then is being piped into our constructors. Now we have 2 constructors right now set to 50% producing steel ingots, or steel beams rather. These 2 constructors will be pushed back to 100% once we bring in a little bit more steel production. And we also have 2 constructors making steel pipes. So after our constructors, we have our outputs being sent over here. You can see we had a little bit of a hiccup with our smart splitters there. On the left side, we've got our steel beams coming in and being sent into this storage box. We have a smart splitter here set. We want to go ahead and set this to be steel beams. And then any overflow, meaning once this backs up, we will be then sending additional steel beams into our awesome sink, which will give us more points for coupons for our cool new buildables. And we're doing the same thing with steel pipes. So our steel pipes are coming in here and filling up this one. Now our next step is going to be to put a second story on half of this factory and go ahead and increase our steel production rate. So let's go ahead and dive in and do that. All right, now in this time lapse, what we're doing is we are going to be redirecting our iron input line from the foundries down below to the line of smelters up above. Now at the very beginning of this, one of the things you'll see me do is disconnect that input line from the smelters, but leave them running. This will let them burn through their existing iron so that we don't have to worry about them sort of backlogging or having anything else left on the belts. And it'll also give us time for our smelters to sort of take up that iron and start producing. So then by the time we reconnect everything coming in from the other side, we'll have a nice clean input line of iron ingots ready to go into those smelters using the alternate recipe. Now in addition to that, you'll see that I also changed the tuning on the smelters so that they can take advantage of the increased efficiency. Remember we had them under-tuned a little bit to 88.88% repeating efficiency, and then we wanted to remove that and change them to 100% efficiency because that's what we need using the new recipe. Now you can also see here that I'm going ahead and changing which direction these ingots come in from. Instead of coming from sort of the left side of the factory, they're coming in from the right. This doesn't really change the functionality of the factory at all, but it does mean I have to rework that line of splitters down below to make sure that they're flowing in the right direction. I couldn't sort of reuse the already existing ones. We had to rebuild them in sort of a reverse order in order to make use of the inputs on the other side. Even though we're actually putting the splitters and belts in the same place, we just needed to sort of reverse their flow of direction. And with that all taken care of, I think our steel factory is all complete for now. We will, just like with our modular frame factories, we have a problem in that we are producing more than our belts can handle. Our 3 foundries are producing 180 steel ingots per minute, and our best belts can only move 120 of those. So we are going to have to come back once we get our Mark III belts in order to upgrade our factory. That's something I'm planning to do before our next episode. I think we'll wrap up this episode here in a little bit by unlocking Logistics Mark III, so that then between episodes I can go ahead and just pop around to all the different factories, upgrade the belts, and get everything smooth sailing again. I think our final main task for today is to go exploring for quartz, and it just so happens that if you look in the background behind this, as our scanner wave approaches, you'll see some quartz veins ping up there on that cliff. So we will head up there and take a look and see what we can do in terms of a simple quartz factory, so that we can get silica and quartz crystals research underway. As we approach the quartz veins, we are coming across our first large hog. These guys are quite a bit more dangerous than the normal hogs, but they're pretty simple to deal with if you know the trick. And that is, as they charge, you need to sort of sprint forward and to either the left or right, sort of like a diagonal to where they're coming from. And that'll give you the speed boost you need to get out of their way. And then you can just sort of stab them as they run past. A bit like fighting a bull, seems. Alright, and we got him. We are up here at our quartz veins. You can see I've run a power line sort of along the cliff edge all the way down to our steel factory, which is pretty well hidden in the mist, but you can sort of just make it out there in the cliffs, and then our coal power plant. So we're just on the other side of the bay here. And what we're going to do is set up a simple miner here and start pulling some quartz out of here, because we actually have just a little bit more research to do in the MAM. If we take a look at quartz, you can see that we have sort of unlocked the basic quartz scanning, but we haven't done the research for quartz crystals or silica. So we're going to go ahead and let this mine for about 20 seconds to get the quartz for that, while we set up a foundation for a really simple, really quick and easy factory. Now, the good news is that quartz is one of the easiest things to sort of work with in its raw form. You don't need to smelt it at all. You don't need to really do anything with it. You can just sort of set up some constructors and let it go to work. I've come up with the layout for our factory. Now, it turns out that the constructors are well tuned such that if you take one constructor of raw quartz and turn it into quartz crystals, and another constructor and turn it into silica, that will use exactly 60 quartz per minute. Now, we're mining 120 quartz per minute, so we'll simply take 2 and turn them into silica, and 2 and turn them into raw quartz. Now, we're also going to be making use of smart splitters, which means we'll pipe a line of these off to our 2 storage containers that we've set up for them, and then any excess that we get, we will be sinking, such that we are able to take advantage of those excess resources. And quartz is one of the things that is excellent for sinking, because it's worth a ton of points and has a relatively simple setup. Now, later in the game, we'll want to probably come back and rework this factory, reclaim these quartz veins, because it's one of those limiting resources that's rare enough and valuable enough that once we get some more factories, we'll want to make use of it for other things. But as we don't have that production line set up yet, we want to just get some of the very early byproducts gathered up, and then sink the rest and take advantage of that resource while it's available to us. While we go ahead and finish up this factory, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what's coming next for this playthrough. We have a number of things that we could focus on, and I'd love to get some feedback in the comments of what you guys think you would like to see next, or where you would like this to go. But as far as I can tell, there are sort of 4 main things that we can do next. We're starting to get to the point where we can unlock things from the Awesome Shop and start to put outsides on our buildings and start to explore architecture and building styles. And that's something I'm very excited to do, and I think that's going to be an episode. Another episode is that we are sort of taking all of these factories we're building, and they're starting to be a little bit more spread out and a little bit harder to gather up resources. You know, if I need silica and modular frames and steel beams, I have to traipse halfway across the map in order to get those. So a logistics system using tractors and truck stations, bringing everything into a sorting system, is going to be another episode coming soon. Building all of these things has sort of taxed our power supply, so we need to do an expansion of our power plant, and I have an idea for a big build, probably our first big build of the series, that I want to do, that I'm very excited to do, that will sort of give us the power we need to go into the next phase of the game, because right now we're running on 600 watts, and I think our factories are at like 500 watts, and so we really need to build more power. And then finally, we could just progress through the game. You know, we're getting to the point where, with steel taken care of, we can start to I think we need one more sort of major factory, and that's the encased industrial beams, before we can sort of unlock the next set of milestones and start assembling the next set of space elevator parts. And so these are all things that are definitely coming soon, are probably sort of the major themes of our next, you know, four episodes or thereabouts. But I'd love to hear what you guys want to see most. As our Quartz factory spins to life and we can start to see the basic production lines taking shape, I think we are in a good place to head back to the hub to wrap things up for the day. I want to highlight something that's important here, and the reason that I focus on finding good ratios and building very efficient factories, in just the 20 minutes or so that I was away building the Quartz factory, we've gone ahead and built over 1,000 steel pipes, and you can see that I've also gathered up 1,000 steel beams, and that's just something that has happened sort of very naturally. You can see we haven't even unlocked a new Fix-It coupon in that time yet, but we are producing just a huge number of items here, and this is only going to improve as we improve our logistics systems. And we are back at our hub, and we are ready to take a look at some of our new milestones. We have everything we need for vehicular transport. That's something we'll be playing with. I think in our next episode we'll be spending a lot of time with that. But we'll also be taking a look at some of the Tier 4 milestones. We have everything we need now for advanced steel production, improved melee combat, and Logistics Mark III. And Logistics Mark III in particular is where we are going to wrap up for today. So let's get this loaded up and sent away. And we will have new Mark III belts, making use of our steel beams, which we can then use for improving the efficiency in our factories. As the sun sets over the cliffs to the south of our base, I think that is where we will finish up for today. I would like to thank you guys for watching. My name has been Dakoba. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you found it helpful or interesting. If you have any comments, questions, or ideas, I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a great day.